Hello, everyone. I'm Brad Lawless. I'm the Senior Product Marketing Manager for TinyMCE. Very happy that you have joined us today.
Mhm.
Joining me is Janae Cram, who is
Hello.
an Umbraco expert with ProWorks. And I had a little bit about ProWorks. Actually, tell us about ProWorks, Janae. You're the expert there.
So ProWorks is an Umbraco Platinum partner in the US based out of Oregon. I myself am based out of Bellingham, Washington. We have a team of three Umbraco MVPs with us in ProWorks, and we've been working in software development for over 20 years. So,
Excellent. And you are going to be walking us through a presentation that you gave last year at the Umbraco US Festival. Can't wait to get that, learning how to really just make
yes,
Tiny MC sing in Umbraco. Before we do that, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself?
absolutely. So, I'm an 8 times Umbraco MVP. I run Script Magazine for Umbraco with a couple other awesome developers and friends here from Bellingham, Washington. I am also a .NET developer and a tech lead. I've been working in Umbraco itself for 17 years now. And on the side, I'm a big nerd. I'm a VTuber. I love video games. I'm an artist. You'll see probably my art flashing in the background here in this presentation. So, yeah.
Love it. What's your favorite game right now?
My favorite game right now is Monster Hunter Wilds.
Okay,
Yeah,
nice.
I'm a big Monster Hunter fan.
Doom. The new Doom just came out last week, so that's
Yes,
chewing up a lot of my time lately. Yeah.
I have some friends playing it.
Excellent. Well, I know you've got a lot of really great content to get through, so I'm gonna hop off, let you get started.
Mhm.
Just a little housekeeping for attendees. If you have questions, throw them in the chat. We're going to collect all those and get to as many of them as we can toward the end. And if you have any other questions about that, I'll be sort of managing things from there while Janae talks. So I'm going to get off and let you take it.
Yes, I've got a lot to cover, so I'm gonna be focusing, like, very strictly on my
Awesome.
slides.
I love it. And actually, I need to, before we do that,
Mhm.
there's my banner. I need to turn that off so we can make sure we
Oh,
see your
yeah.
screen. Okay.
Yes.
I will let you take it from here.
Okay,
Let
sounds
me
good.
get your slides and then me off of it. All right. Thanks, Jenny.
Thank you. All right. Let me just make sure I have everything up here that I need. Okay, so today we're going to talk about how to make the most of Tiny in Umbraco, or as I would like to say, how to get an enormous editor experience from a Tiny NCE in Umbraco. I do want to note right from the beginning of this presentation that this does expect that you have some experience with Umbraco. I am going to be going through a lot of demos. We're going to be doing them pretty quickly because there's actually a significant amount of features that you can use in Tiny in the back office that you may not even be aware about. I also want to note that this presentation was directly inspired by Lee Kelleher's Finding Contentment talk at Code Garden a couple years ago, where he reviewed his package Contentment and went through all of the features that Contentment has. It was an amazing talk. I learned a lot about Contentment that I didn't know existed, and it inspired me to do this talk to show you about a lot of the features that TinyMCE has in Umbraco that you might also not know exist. Okay, so we have a bunch of stuff to cover today. We're going to go through all 5 of these different pieces. We're going to talk about installing TinyMCE premium package in Umbraco and what you need for that. We're going to talk about the open source plugins, which are the free plugins that are included with TinyMCE that aren't by default in Umbraco. We're going to talk about the plug and play options that you have. These are like the quick and dirty plugins that you can push right into the back office, and they require minimal setup or no setup really except the click of a button. Then we're going to talk about complex setups and how you can like dig in and integrate Umbraco with some of Tiny's really awesome features. And we're going to finish off with a few community packages that can make your dev and editor lives easier, setting up the formatting dropdown in the back office. So, first off, what is the TinyMCE Premium package and why might you be interested in it? So, the TinyMCE Premium package is explicitly for building extensions to Umbraco's TinyMCE in the back office in version 13. And this also works in version 12. You can customize the rich text editor in Umbraco on your own, but it actually takes quite a bit of code work under the hood. So, ProWorks has set up this package so you don't have to do that. You can install the package and you can set up everything with a lot less developer investment. All right, let's start with the installation because there's a few things that you have to install to get this going. First off is the package itself. You can get this on the Umbraco Marketplace. And Brad, can you move me so that we can see the full install there? Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. You can get this on the Umbraco Marketplace. And you can see that it is the TinyMCE Umbraco Premium package if you search for that. You can also install it directly via NuGet using .NET Add package. You do want to check the version that you're installing because this is on multiple Umbraco versions. So make sure that when you install it, you are doing it for the right version. The second thing that you're going to need is a Tiny API key. So you need to go and sign up for a plan through Tiny. The essential plan works for almost everything that we're going to talk about in this presentation today. So you can go here. You can see I've taken a screenshot of this. I have blurred out all of the pricing because I couldn't guarantee that my screenshot was accurate at the time I took this. So you'll definitely want to go check it out yourself, look at the features. But I'm going to be demoing most of these today, so you should have a really good feel for what all of these do before you pick what you need. So if you're installing Umbraco from scratch entirely and you want to install the TinyMCE Premium package with it, I use Package Scriptwriter when I am doing a fresh Umbraco install. There is Devi talk in this, so if that's not your vibe, you can zoom out a little bit, but I am going to be going through some of these development tools we use. Package Scriptwriter is amazing. It lets you set up Umbraco and install all your useful packages all in one go, bam, and even save it. So let's go through what it does really quickly. All right. So when you load up the site, the first thing that you're going to see is this list of packages, but we actually want to go right over to the options tab. And then we're going to unclick the starter kit because I have my own setup that I like to use. But if you want to use the starter kit, you can. Next, we'll select our Umbraco version. And for that, we want the LTS. At this time, it was 13.4. It's much higher than that now. And then you'll also want to name your solution and your project. Visual Studio needs this, and .NET also requires it to run the site. There are multiple database options. You can drop it down, use what you need. I use SQLite because this is a demo site and I wanted to make it easily available. And then I kept the default login for the back office because, again, this is a demo site, so I wanted it to be easy. Back on the Packages tab, we're going to install usync because we usync all the things, even our demo sites. And then we're going to search for Tiny to pull up the TinyMCE Umbraco Premium package. We're going to then select that to add it, and we're going to pick the version that we want. So if you're on version 13, you'll pick the 13. You probably are. That's the current LTS. But if you're on 12, you want to pick 12. You've probably seen that install script flashing. So we click on that tab, and this gives us our command line code that we can just copy and slap right in our command line with everything installed we need. You can output that on a single line, or you can remove comments and have it fully list everything out. And then you can copy it, most importantly. And then what I don't actually show because this is a video is, and Opera hides it, is in my address bar, there's a whole query string at the end of this that you can't see, but you can bookmark this. So whatever your setup is, if you want to use it over and over again and make sure you always have your favorite packages installed when you run Umbraco, you can do that right here, bookmark it, bam, has your install script, you're good to go. It's an excellent tool, I love it. After we do that, there's a little bit of configuration that we have to do specifically for Tiny in the back office. And so that is our TinyMCE config. So this goes in your app settings file, or because I don't like to store anything that is going to be private information in my app settings directly, in your secret keys or your environment variables, but that is where the structure of this configuration goes. All right, so now that we have that, we're going to jump right into our demo and we're going to go through a bunch of these packages. So I'm going to pop over to that screen. Oh, and I've logged out. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do really quickly is show you how to set up the data type in the back office. So I've already gone to the settings tab. I've popped open my data types, and you can see that I have a TinyMCE folder here. And I have a separate data type for each of my demos because I want to show them off uniquely. You absolutely do not need to do this, nor would I recommend it. I would recommend only having a few custom setups that you need. But to create one, we're going to click the dot, 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 new data type, select our property editor, and then we're going to scroll down and you know that you've installed it properly if you see that TinyMCE Premium Rich Text Editor right there. So once we have that, we've got a few more options that the normal rich text editor doesn't have. First off, there's this plugin section at the top, which shows all of the plugins that are installed. And then we see our familiar toolbar underneath it, as well as style sheets, dimensions code. But this new section for custom config is specific. This allows you to add configurations that you would normally need to put into your app settings or your secrets or environment variables directly into the back office. And the useful reason for doing this is because you can set different configurations this way for different editors. This custom config is for this editor and this editor only. Okay. You can also go down to the standard rich text editor and you can change this and replace it by clicking the TinyMCE Premium. This is going to reset your settings back here for your toolbar and what style sheets you're using, but you won't have any data loss. So if you want to swap it with rich text editors that you're already using, you should be good to go without any trouble. Okay, let's dig into what the actual editors do. There we go. The first one that we're going to go talk about is our open source plugins section. So these ones, again, are all free plugins that you get. Sorry, I have allergies. It's driving me nuts here. These are all free packages, plugins that you get for Tiny, and they do some really nice little things that you can use. So the first one is the accordion. The accordion lets you open and close accordions. This uses default HTML and CSS. So if we click on this, you can see I have the most bare bones of sites here because I wanted to show this. It opens them up. So you can add FAQs, etc., right inside of your rich text editor without having to go and add new blocks, which is really nice. Now, this does require a small bit of custom setup, and I'm going to show you. It's a great first example. So if we go here to our open source plugins and we go to our accordion, we scroll down here. You can see that in the custom config, I have this new document content and it has a details summary with the accordion. It gives our initial state and our serialized state. For this demo and for almost every demo that I'm doing until the complex ones, this is copied directly from Tiny's documentation. I wanted it to be as low confusion as possible, but just show you that it works and works well in Umbraco. There is one extra thing we do have to do, though, to get this working in Umbraco. So Umbraco only allows specific HTML tags in the rich text editor. It strips them out for security purposes. And details and summary are not allowed. So we need to go here into our app settings.json, which I've already opened. And we need to scroll down to Umbraco. And then we need to scroll down to the rich text editor here. And these might not exist. You may need to add them. And then the rich text editor has valid elements. And this is in Umbraco's documentation for the rich text editor. But when I did this, they had this truncated, so it didn't actually show you all the valid elements. So I had to go into the source code and grab it. I'm pretty sure there's been a PR to fix that at this point. But I'm going to just hit my end button here and go down to the very end. And you can see I've added details here. I've added summary. And I've also added code, which we're going to talk about in the very next demo. So might as well just put them all in at the same time. This causes it to not strip out those HTML tags in the back office. And then normally, if you hadn't done this yet, you would rebuild the site or republish it and you'd be good to go. So as you can see, if we now go back here to our accordion and I click to view it in the code, the details and summary are here. If I save and publish this page, it hasn't disappeared. Nothing's been stripped out. They're still there. The next one that we're going to talk about is the code sample. This is especially great for developers who are wanting to do things like blog. It allows you to add this beautiful code right in the back office. Tiny uses prismjs.com. You can grab the JavaScript and CSS and load it into your front end template, which I've done here. In my view, I've gone to my layout and I have prism.js and prism.css here. It's as easy as that to have the same experience in the back office as the front end. So then if you click on this and you open the insert edit code sample, you should see that it's showing the code. You can also click down at the end, start a new one, and it has a whole bunch of drop downs for different code syntaxes that you can apply. It's really handy. And then if we go to the front, you can see since I've added Prism.js that it displays it with the exact same formatting that we're seeing in the back office. You don't have to do anything for the back office to have Prism.js work. It's built into Tiny. It just works. The next one that we are going to talk about is emoticons. Emoticons has a toolbar option, but you also don't have to use it. You can start typing just like you would in Slack or Discord or any of your other tools that allow the colon use. We use ClickUp. So that you can do that there, or you can open this and you can click around on different categories or search for the emote that you want to use. The help text for editors puts Tiny's default help text right in the back office, which is more useful than you would think. You can click this question mark. It's going to give you all of the handy shortcuts that you can use with the rich text editor. It also shows you keyboard navigation for people who prefer to use their keyboard navigation. It tells you what plugins are installed, which is really helpful for developers. And it also shows you the version that you're on, which is particularly helpful if you're trying to go through TinyMCE's documentation and find out how to extend something properly, so you know exactly what version you're currently using in the rich text editor. Insert date and time allows you to insert today's date and the time as of right now. You can drop this down, click the button. You can see I'm on the West Coast. We're going to add a space in here and add our date. Okay. So this can be really helpful if you're not wanting to use automatic programming to pull in like the last updated date, especially if you're scheduling content and such. I found this is particularly useful for like legal documents or press releases that have specific dates that need to be associated with when they were last updated that might not actually be when they were published on the website itself. So you can enter your content and then publish it later if you need to, and use this at least as a starter template, which is really nice. Search and replace replaces the browser's default search. So if I hit Control F out here, you'll see it pops up. Let me search here. Oh, my bookmark bar is showing. Why are you showing there? Go away. Go away. Hide. My bookmarks. There we go. There. Much cleaner. Okay. So if you Control F, you get the browser search and replace. But if you click inside of Tiny and you Control F, then you get, oh, that hand's weird. You get this find and replace. And this is really great. So I've got some kitten Ipsum in here that I copied in. And I know that it has the word Mao in it. So we're going to find that. There we go. A whole bunch of Maos. And we're going to replace it with a more emphatic Mao. Oh, if I can type. I can't. There we go. Replace all. And you can see it has successfully found them, replaced them. Very nice and easy. But you also have this little settings button, which you can drop down. And so it gives you some more complex find and replace that the browser doesn't have, which is really useful. The last one that we're going to talk about in the open source plugins is the word count. So word count is particularly handy. Again, I've just done some kitten Ipsum in here. I'm going to highlight this content and I'm going to click the word count button right here. So this is really nice. I edit articles. I talked about being a founder of Script Magazine earlier, and we have limits for how long we want our articles to be for publish. This allows us a really useful count of the words in document and the words in our selection if we're considering what to recommend truncating to one of our authors. It also tells you the characters without spaces and the characters with spaces and highlights it between the full document and the selection, which is super handy. Okay, so that gets us through topic number 2. Now we're going to go to topic number 3, which is our plug and play options. So these are all part of the premium package. So these do require you to have a subscription with Tiny, and they add a lot of awesome extra functionality, and they have minimal to low setup to implement all of these. Okay. Some of them have absolutely no setup other than allowing the plugin. So the first one that we're going to talk about is the accessibility checker. And the accessibility checker does have some very minimal setup. So we'll go look at it really quick. We're going to go to plug and play, our accessibility checker. Again, I do not recommend having a single one of these for each feature. I have the plugin set to be allowed. And then I have it turned on in my toolbar here, the accessibility checker. And then if we scroll down, I have this custom config. This turns on our advanced options, tells it what version of HTML we're using and what accessibility checker level we want to use. In this case, I'm doing AAA. So if we go back to our content, I have explicitly put in some bad content here that is inaccessible. And if we click our accessibility checker, it's going to give us a bunch of errors and warnings. So the first one is this is not a header. It is just bolded text. We can change that to a heading and click to repair it. Second, we have this art that I've drawn and it doesn't have any alt text. So I'm going to put in bad alt text, right? Your alt text should not be credits, right? Your alt text should describe the picture. But in this case, I'm just going to put in some dummy text for this demo, repair it. And then at the bottom, it's showing us some list items that are not actually list items, and it won't auto repair these. So we can highlight those. We can set them to be a bulleted list. And of course, if we've had our search and replace plugin implemented here, we could then also highlight those and get rid of them, boot them out, and have it all cleaned up. Okay, I'm going to leave this unpublished so that it's unpublished in my demo for testing. The next one that we're going to talk about has basically no setup. This is the advanced code editor. If you've worked in Umbraco, you're probably used to the code editor that Umbraco has built in that they use with TinyMCE, and it looks like this. The advanced code editor, on the other hand, looks like this. And it has a bunch of extra options, which I find super nice, especially dark light mode. Big fan of that. You can also increase the text, which makes things like sharing this in the demo much nicer. And you can copy the code, which is great if you have particularly a fiddly mouse like I do that doesn't want to copy everything. You can paste that in. And then if we copy code again, as you can see, it copies the entire block. We now have 4 of these, which is entirely unnecessary. But it's super helpful for when you want to take stuff from one page to another. The next one we're going to review is the advanced table editor. And again, I'll talk about if any of these have advanced options, we'll go look at them. This one doesn't. So the advanced table editor, this one is the normal table. You can see it has all of these great options. TinyMCE has a ton of awesome table settings, which I find really nice. And if you right click, you've got your cell, row, column, table properties. You can delete it, etc. What the advanced one does is it adds some really nice sorting functionality. So if we right click here, you can see we now have this sort, and we can sort by column ascending. And you can see, since I was on this column, let me just click off this, that it's now in order, but the heading hasn't been adjusted. It only sorts the rows that are not header rows, which is super nice. There's also, if we go here, advanced sort, it opens up these different options for sorting by columns, by rows, selection, etc. So it adds some really nice sorting functionality. This is only to sort it in the back office. If you want fancy front end sorting functionality, you have to, plug in something extra for that. Advanced typography lets you use print typography in your rich text editor, and it deploys it properly as HTML formatted. So it's really nice. But what it does beyond allowing you to use fancy em dashes and having lovely quotes is it also does this in multiple languages. So I am going to pick Spanish, and you can see that the typography has been enhanced with brackets here for Spanish quotations. which is really cool. You can see all of the different language options in here. There's a bunch of them. So you can actually set up your print settings for different languages and multilingual sites, not just in English, which is great. Case change is actually probably one of my favorite ones, and there is a little bit of functionality that we do have to implement for this. It does exactly what you would expect. It sets things to lowercase, it sets things to uppercase, and it sets things to title case. But in the case of title case, my is over here is capitalized and I don't want it to be. So that is where we can customize this. So if we go back to our settings and we go here to case change and we scroll down, I have a custom configure that has all of the minors that I want to have. So if we click edit on this, and this requires properly formatted JSON. For example, if I say is, it's not going to let us save this. Oh, it did let me save. Oh no, it didn't. It erased it. It was like, you're wrong, Janae. Then if we do that and we submit it, we will see is on the bottom now. We'll click save. We'll go to our content. And if we highlight this again, drop this down, go to title case, you can see right there that is no longer capitalized. So super useful for doing like quick and dirty case adjustment right in the back office. Checklist gives you the extra bulleted list functionality that displays checklists. I have this custom CSS just in here for my demo that basically applies TinyMCE's checklist settings for the CSS on the front end as well. So you can see that we have all of these checkboxes. I think this is really great for showing roadmaps, or if you're doing recipes on your site and you want to allow users on the front end to check off things as they get through them. Super useful for that. So if we go to the front, you can see I have it set to display the same way, but if I refresh the page, since this is just basic JavaScript, then it's going to take out and only do what is saved as checked in the back office. You can implement this if you wanted to save the user settings, plug in some cookies there, have that set up, but I didn't do it for this demo. So there's a lot of flexibility with that. Now, Umbraco already has a media embed, but I like the enhanced media embed. And the reason that I like it is because when you use Umbraco's embed, it plugs it in, slaps it in, and you can't really edit much of anything. But with the enhanced media embed, I've pasted this YouTube video here as my source, gives you the control over the width and height, which Umbraco does too. But then it actually gives you the embed code. So if you want to go in here and you want to go to your iframe and add things like autoplay equals 1, generally don't recommend that, but you can, then you have that option to do that, add extra settings in. There's also the advanced, so you can add an alternate source URL and you can plug a media poster in from the back office, which is super useful. So for the export allows us to export PDFs from the content in the rich text editor. So if I click this button and I click PDF and I have a new one, you can see I've exported a ton of these while I was testing, and it creates this version of the content in the rich text editor as a PDF. Now, I want to note really quickly, this is not accessible. This is just an image. So if I zoom in here, we go. You can see it's fuzzy. So this is for like a quick and dirty export. If you want something that actually has this is searchable text, then you might want to implement different functionality, but it's really great for when you just need to grab it, send something off to someone. This, oh my goodness, my mouse is so big. Format Painter is one of the most fun packages for the rich text editor. So you can see I've added these colors in the dropdown. This is using Umbraco's standard format setup. So it's in their documentation if you want to go set that up. But if we double click this pink bolded text, which is a little bit hard to see, and we click the paintbrush here, and then we highlight this other text, then it is now also pink and bold. And if we highlight this green and italic text and we pick the paintbrush and we highlight this other text, that is also now green and italic. So it lets you copy all of the style settings from one spot into another spot, which is pretty neat. This does have some custom setup. I'm just going to pop over here really quick and show you. If we scroll down, most of this is copied from Tiny's default configuration, but Umbraco uses spans very specifically to apply formatting into the rich text editor. So you want to make sure that you have the spans set up exactly as you want. And if you want to look and see my settings, I'll have a link to this demo at the end of the presentation, and you can grab it on GitHub and you can look at all of this. The database settings are all in there with you sync too. So you should be good to go. All right, back on our content, we have the link checker. I didn't want to do anything completely wild with this, so I literally copied this from Tiny's demo. But if we put a space after each of these, and it can take a moment for it to do, oh, the callback was super fast. Look at that. They're all red. So this tells you these are invalid links. And if we put spaces after these instead, they're not red. So they're valid links. So this works by having the auto link plugin and having the link checker plugin enabled in tandem with each other. And auto link is built into Umbraco, so you don't have to worry about that. Okay. Page embed allows you to do flexible iframes that keep a specific dimension. And again, this requires a little bit of custom setup. So for my iframe, I have a Wikipedia article here on pygmy hippopotamuses because it doesn't matter how old Mudang is, I still really like her. I have some custom CSS set up in here, and I will show you that all of these classes are applied in the settings section. So if we go here, click our insert edit iframe, then we put our source in here, which I've just copied out. We have our size, which is the inline value. That's not what I want. I want a responsive one. Let's pick 4:3. So it's about dimensions, not the actual pixel sizes or anything. And then for advanced, I also want to enable the scroll bar because I want to see it as we go to different screen sizes here. And you can add a name, title, long description, etc. So I'm going to save that. You can already see that it has populated it. And then I'm going to save and publish this. And before we go and look at this on the front, I'm going to show you that back here, the setup for this is just tiny page embed classes. And it tells you the name, which you see in that dropdown, and then what class to associate with it. And then you can set up your CSS exactly as you need. So if we go back, we go select this and open it on the front, you can see here that this is about 4:3 dimensions. Also, my scroll is turned on, so it's displaying my Wikipedia article right in here. And if we hack this together and we change our screen size here, there we go. The 4:3 dimensions stay, and it's now the Wikipedia mobile size page, and we can scroll that down and read everything we've ever wanted to know about pygmy hippos. All right. Permanent pen allows you to have the same style setting wherever you're typing. By default, it is bold and red. So I have selected permanent pen. I start typing and it is bold and red. But if I right click and I select permanent pen properties, then you can select italic and strike through and you can change your color. I'm going to do a dark purple. I tried this with light purple early and you couldn't see it. So now if we add this, it's going to be italic and strike through. But you'll notice it's bold here because this is in a heading and that heading is bolded. If we go down here, it's going to be italic and strike through. And wherever you put your cursor and you start typing, it is going to keep that formatting, which is pretty nice. Power Paste lets you copy and paste from Word documents, and it fixes your formatting, but only if you want it to. So I have a really old article on Code Garden 2023, which is Umbraco's big festival in Denmark. I'm going to paste it here. And it gives me this option to remove the formatting or keep the formatting. So for the first part, I'm going to keep it. So we have this Code Garden content. And if I open my code view, you can see it has all this gross styles on it, margin top, margin bottom, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to delete it, wipe it out. And now I'm going to remove the formatting. And it looks pretty much the same here, but more importantly, when we open this, you can see it has none of that formatting that came over from Google Docs into here. So really nice, clean code, super useful for copy and pasting. The spell checker does exactly what you would expect it to do. As you can see, it is marking that my spelling here is wrong. Impossible is definitely not spelled right. But the extra great thing about the spell checker is it spell checks in a bunch of different languages. So if I scroll down, you can see I also have this in Spanish, I think, and German. So if we select German, then we have, it's going to take it a minute. I'm going to click the button again here. Oh, German. I did select it, right? It's German. There we go. It's telling me everything in English basically is misspelled. It will also run that through for Spanish. And then when I ran this before, I found it nothing in the German was misspelled, so it was fine. And when I ran it for Spanish, the only thing it said was misspelled was there was the word fox in here right here, and it told me that was misspelled. So it does do really well with the multiple languages. All right, next we have spelling autocorrect. Now, I know what you're thinking. This means that everything that you type is going to be spelled as duck, but that's not true. You actually have pretty good control over the spelling autocorrection here. It mainly just does commonly misspelled words. It's not like rewriting everything for you. Things like the, right? And can. You'll notice if I type can in capitals, though, when I put a space here, because CNA is an acronym, then it's not autocorrecting it. And you are able to control in the settings what you want it to autocorrect and what you don't want it to autocorrect for you. I recommend this in conjunction with spell checker so that it handles the little misspellings when you're typing super fast, but you can run spell checker at the end to handle everything else. All right, our last one in our plug and play is the table of contents. I'll just delete this really quick. Click the table of contents, you can see that it has created document start, which is a heading 2, and then point number 1 and point number 2, which are heading 3s. And if I refresh this after I've added stuff, it will pick it up again. But what I want to show you is that you can control how deep this table of contents goes. It's one of the most basic settings in here. So once again, table of contents set in my plugins. Table of contents is allowed here in my toolbar. And if we scroll all the way down, we have our table of contents depth, which is set to 3. So if I click this and I add it to 4, excuse me, and I submit that and I save, we go back to our content here. Oh, it is there. I don't know what I clicked too fast. This is the problem with having my mouse really big so you can see it is. I'm not clicking on the right spots. Okay, there we go. And now I refresh this. You can see that it's added point number 1 and point number 2. And those are my heading 4s. So it goes now down to the 4th depth level. All right. So that gets us through 3 out of 5. So we have 2 more. Our advanced plugins. So I put AI Assistant here in our advanced plugins because it requires an additional API key. But it doesn't actually take that much to set this up. But let's just pop back really quickly over here. And we're going to go to our configuration again. And we need to go to platform.openai.com/API keys, and we need to get an API key. If you don't have an account with them, you'll need to sign up with an account to get this API key. And their setup is really straightforward. That link's going to take you right there. You snag your API key. And then in our TinyMCE config, which you can see again is right here, that is in your app settings, except I don't recommend storing API keys in your app settings. Don't push those to your repo. You can put it in your user secrets or in your environment variables in this same format and set your open API key here. Once you've done that, then you can go back to, yep, I'm swapping right back to the demo. You can go back to your back office. You can allow the AI assistant and then plug it in and run with it. So let me show you what it does. So if you click this AI button, you're going to get the AI assistant. And I want a newsletter welcome. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Email. Maybe a newsletter sign up. We're going to use email templates as a big example here. Okay, I've run this. Oh, that's okay. We'll click try again. All right, I hate when it puts these HTML up here. I don't want that. Try again. All right, so let's insert that. So we've got this big heading. I don't want that to be a heading 1. Let's make that a heading 2. And then we have a thank you for subscribing, blah, 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 blah. Okay, but if I want this to be more friendly, but I don't want to wordsmith it all myself, then we have this little magic wand. It's here when you highlight the text. It's up here when you don't, but you can still use it. And I want this to be friendly. So let's click that. Hey there, thank you for joining our newsletter. You're a valued member of our close knit community. That sounds lovely. Click it and it will replace the text. I find this super useful for just generating really quick things. But as always, I want to remind you that AI does hallucinate and it can put in content here that is inaccurate, especially depending on what you type to have it generate for you. So always check your content. Always make sure it is actually accurate to your brand, your business, your formal tone or casual tone, all of those things. Wait, the next one that we're going to talk about, and this is where we're going to really start digging into like the in-depth nitty-gritty in Umbraco. I'm going to show you this in the code. It's going to be really great. So we're going to actually get into code here. All right. So this is the default templates that TinyMCE has. As you can see, we've got message received, thanks for feedback, still working on the case. It's all ticket oriented and it uses these custom brackets and you can insert these. So that's what templates do. And in here, I'm using also merge tags, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. And it's got these brackets plugged in because these are the default. So I'm first off going to say don't use double brackets in TinyMCE. That does mix up with Angular, which is still being used in version 13. So don't do that. But we're going to instead blitz this content. Delete. All right. And we're going to set up some custom stuff. So we're going to go back to our app settings. And if you want to add your own templates, I've got this handy section all commented out. I'm going to uncomment it with Control KU. I'm going to Control X to cut it. Now this goes inside your TinyMCE config, and you can see I have the dummy areas for the API key and the open API key here. And then there's a new custom config section underneath that. So we're going to put a comma after my very minimal Google paste document here. And these are our templates. So now we're going to Control Shift B to rebuild our project. And it's going. There we go. Succeeded. And we're going to come back here, refresh our page. It's probably already refreshed, but we're going to play better safe than sorry. And we open this. And you can see I have examples for intro text and questions and more samples for you rock, which we have pulled intro text questions, more samples, you rock. And we can insert that and it applies the template. But this is where Umbraco can really shine. So I've created this data area and I've created advanced templates in Umbraco. And I want to apply these across my site in different places and use these as my templates and then edit them for what I need. So I have these thank you emails. And I'm going to show you how to take these from Umbraco and apply them into the templates that you can pull from here right inside the rich text editor. So I've already set up these doc types. I'm going to assume that you know how to set up a doc type. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to make this advanced template model. For the purposes of this demo, I've put two models inside the same file. The category response is the model that TinyMCE requires in documentation for its response from the promise, which is going to be an ID and a title, and then a list of template items. And then the advanced template response is the ID, the title, and content. And this is what TinyMCE expects to load this into the back office. Then we have a controller for our advanced template controller. And down here, we get all of our templates. We are just crawling the tree to do that by getting the content at the root, finding our data folder, getting our advanced templates. If you had a lot of these, you might want to use Examine and do a search to find them instead. That can be faster than crawling the tree. But at the moment for this demo, we're just crawling the tree for it. I return all the categories. I map them to my TinyMCE models, and I get that back in my API call, which is a GET request. And then I also have one for a single item, in which I grab all of these. I return a single template by getting it by its ID, which is very quickly built into Umbraco, and I return that item with, this is also a GET request, even though I didn't put it up there. So the last thing we need to do is actually wire this into the editor itself. And to do that, we need a custom app plugin. Oh, wrong button. Here we go. So I've added a TinyMCE premium overrides. I'd recommend using the same folder structure. And then we've added a TinyMCE custom config file. And in here, you can just leave this blank for now. But the most important thing is adding that to your package.manifest so that it tells Umbraco to register this JavaScript and use it in the back office. Then once we've done that, we need a few little basic functions in here. First, we need to register our Angular module. We need to pass in the root scope, HTTP to do our GET requests, and the Umbraco request helper, which handles the Angular promise. I'm going to uncomment my code that I already have commented out here. And this is very close to the TinyMCE documentation, but Umbraco has the request helper for returning the promise in Angular, which is a little bit different than TinyMCE's documentation. So they're very close, but that's what you need if you're doing this in Umbraco. And then you can see we get our multiple templates and we get our single templates. So build this. And it is already built super fast. Come back here. I saw the page refresh. We can click on this and you can see thank you emails, sales thank you, and vendor thank you, and welcome messages, sales welcome, and vendor welcome. We'll pick this one, insert it, and that matches exactly what's in here. Thank you emails, welcome messages, sales, and vendor. So you can get them right from Umbraco, plug them in, and then you can start editing content in here and changing it. So let's save and publish this. All right, so you can see I have this bracketed customer.firstname in here, and that's going to take us right into the next one that we're going to talk about. I only have 2 more merge tags. So merge tags do this really cool setup that allows you to have a drop down that gives you options that you've set up for your users to use in a template. I've historically used these in email templates a ton, but I've always had to tell my clients, okay, this is the list of items that you can use. You can drop down, name, you can type it in, and you need to put brackets around it. And of course, if they don't do that on their email templates, then it won't automatically sub them out when I do a replacement search in the code, especially if they spell something wrong, etc. So this allows you to have control over that and give them the option to implement specific ones that you know that they can replace, and give them the flexibility to select what they want without having to keep a list of what to type and make sure they don't misspell something. You can see that I have this applied here, but in my advanced templates, I do have merge tags, but it's not here. The reason for that is, just like I talked about earlier, if we go here to our complex setups and I select my merge tags, I have put what is allowed in the back office for this specific editor only, and it doesn't apply to all of them. I have my prefix and my suffix, which are set as brackets. Again, I really recommend not using double curly brackets. It does conflict with Angular in the back office. You will run into trouble with it. And then I have my setup here. So let's apply this to our other area and go back to our app settings. Once again, I have this commented out for my ease of my demo. I'm going to Control KU, cut that, and I'm going to go to the bottom of this, which I know is an array, and paste it in here, and then we're going to rebuild. Oh, okay, we're going to rebuild, and then we're going to come back over here, and we're going to go to our advanced plugins, our advanced template, and as you can see, now in our advanced templates, they're here, and you can get the exact same ones we had in our merge tags. All right, the very last one that we're going to talk about is mentions. And mentions does not have a toolbar setting, so you can't see it in here. But you'll see if I start typing, nothing happens. Okay, I have a member set up for me right here. This is me. I have a description and I have an image. And then I also have a member set up for my boss, Jason. Very handy for this demo that our names start with the first 2 letters, by the way. And I have a description and I have a picture of my boss right here. And I want to be able to mention me or Jason inside of the rich text editor. So let me show you how to do that. So we're going to go back to our models and we're going to add this mention. And we have an ID, a name, a description, and an image. This is exactly what Tiny expects in the response. And then in our controller, we're going to come up here and we have our member manager and our member service. And so we can get a single member by their ID, which is Umbraco's stored ID for the member. And we can query the members by using the member service to get all the members. And then by searching if our members has this in their name. Now, again, I would recommend setting up an examine index to do this and searching it that way. But for the case of this demo, I used the member service to get the data and return the ID, the name, and the description. And then to get this to return on the front end, we need to go back to our TinyMCE custom config here. We need to scroll down and uncomment some more code. Control X. Come back here and paste this at the end here, still inside of our custom user config up here. Okay. So what this does is we get our mentions by our query, which is going to be typing in their name. And then when we hover on the mentions, we get this callback in our promise that creates this div that's going to make a pop-up. Okay. So if we build this, we come back here, it's going to refresh this page. And so now instead of customer first name, you can see it's got Janae Cram or it's got Jason Prothero, and you can click that and it shows the mention right in there. You can wire this in to do anything that you want. If you look in the code, you can see it wraps a span class mention around it. So you can look for that and then wire that into Slack notifications if you wished, anything that you wanted. All right. So that is the last of my demos. We have 2 tiny final things to talk about, and that is our community packages. So there are 2 community packages I want to discuss super quick. The first one is the Umbraco RTE style formatter. So in your app settings, to set style formats which allow you to use the rich text editors, custom drop downs where headings is in a category and then it has the headings, and then maybe colors is in a category and then it has all the colors. You have to put this in the app settings, and it is all escaped JSON, which is really gross to type in. Not fun to do that. Heretic has made a lovely little package that allows you to write real JSON, and he escapes it and puts it into the app settings for you. So it's really handy if you want to control that. But also, if you want to take it a step further, then we have iomi.net's TinyMCE Umbraco, and this has a graphic UI that allows you to create headings in a section group, set your styles, block, selector, what classes, and then of course I'm hiding it down here, but this is colors, and you can see it's got red, inline, span, red, and then since this is a screenshot, if we scrolled all the way down to the bottom, it spits out the pre-escaped JSON that you can just copy paste right into your app settings, and it will plug and play it for you, and you'll have your pretty drop downs. All right. And that is the entirety of my presentation. You can use that QR code to get to the GitHub demo, and you can also use the link that I've typed right in there to get to the demo as well.
Janae, that was really cool. Personally, I want to thank you for keeping Mudang like in the zeitgeist.
She's amazing, right?
Who doesn't love a cute little hippo?
I love her. I love her. I've learned more about pygmy hippos than I ever knew in my life.
I think we all have.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite feature in Tiny? Like when you're putting stuff together, what do you feel like saves you the most time?
Advanced templates. That's my favorite.
Fair.
So okay. I use that in Script all the time. So again, that's our Umbraco magazine, script.io, which hilariously I don't have in here, but I put this presentation together for ProWorks. We use like little styled like snippets for like notes areas and stuff for people's articles. Like, remember that you need to do this because there's a lot of technical articles in there. And it's really nice for just adding a notes area, putting in these. We have like these cute little call outs that are styled with like lined paper, right? So it looks really like classic. Yeah. So it's really fun for adding little style elements in like that.
I love that. So it helps with both consistency and time, I guess.
Yeah. And yeah, so otherwise you have to like develop blocks to put them in just for a little styled element. That's so unnecessary to add all of that. No. So it allows you to have like cool little templated call outs and really make, your articles and your content look really like step up.
Very cool. We are pretty much at time. I want to thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us today. And just the last thing, I wanted to, just to kind of, as a little tease, let people know, I'm looking at my notes, sorry, I'm looking away from the camera, that TinyMCE and ProWorks are working up a new version of the package for 16 plus, right? We're going to have we don't have details, but that'll be coming soon.
Yes. Well, I can say that I do know a little bit of like secret info about that. And so in version 16, which is the next LTS from Umbraco, we are working on a package for that. And I happen to know that we're in some testing internally on that right now. So it's in a good spot. We're in like a testing phase. So
Cool. So coming soon, I think would
yes,
probably
coming
be a
soon. Definitely.
good tease.
Yeah.
Excellent. So I want to thank everyone who joined us today. Again, Janae, this was super great. I really appreciate it, and look forward to hopefully we can do this again sometime.
Absolutely. I hope so. It was my pleasure.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you
Thank
on the next
you.
webinar.